Controversial start. Would you go with that? Let it grow, not too big. David, what do you think?
Almost. I think that Google, to me, is a company of lots of contradictions. They were my comments at the start that Helene quoted. Its unofficial motto is "Don't be evil," but many of its competitors see it as the devil incarnate. I think that anyone that thinks Google is some kind of malevolent force is crazy. I mean, it simply isn't. But those that believe the motto, "Don't be evil," is what guides it, rather than the creation of shareholder value or the maximization of profits, are kidding themselves. Like Apple, Google suffers from the generation of an offbeat, anti-corporate image. That's why we're shocked when Apple uses child labour in a Chinese factory, or when Google avoids its taxes in the UK. It's the sort of behaviour we'd accept from Shell or Primark without batting an eyelid. But there are these contradictions. It claims to be open, yet guards its secrets more fiercely than most others. I was talking to one of its external PRs recently, and they said Google is more open because it's more open than Microsoft, which is a bit like saying you're more tolerant than Jan Moyer. It says it isn't a media company, yet virtually every media company identifies it as one of its major competitors. Like Tom, I think it's going to be hard for us to determine tonight whether or not Google is too big. What is too big? Who decides? The fact is, it's big enough. It's big enough to attract the attention of antitrust authorities on both sides of the Atlantic. It's big enough to be fighting scores of lawsuits on several different fronts. It's big enough to spark real concerns over privacy. And it's big enough for all of us to be sitting here on our Thursday night discussing whether or not it's too big. Tonight we're going to hear about legitimate concerns over competition, copyright and privacy. But I want to inject a voice of dissent. The fact is that Google is an impressive company. Lots of its products are the best in their class. It's got a business model that works. Now, lots of people would like to see its wings clipped, but I think it's important to look at where they're coming from. Take newspapers, my industry, one of the most vocal critics of Google. But the newspaper industry has been in dire straits for many years now, long before Google even came along. In fact, if you look at newspapers over the last 100 years, they've constantly struggled to turn a profit. There's a reason why rich, opinionated men with deep pockets tend to own them. I also think that the concerns over privacy are massively overblown. I think Google's proven itself to be a remarkably reliable keeper of our information. After all, it's not Google that leaves CD-ROMs with millions of client data on the train. That said, fears over privacy are a real problem, not least for Google itself. There was a friend of mine recently, and she was having an argument with her boyfriend on Gmail, and it served her 3 adverts. The first one was, "Do you need relationship advice?" The second one was how to keep your man. And finally, I asked her whether or not she needed a divorce. Similarly, the launch of Buzz recently was a complete disaster and seemingly one that Google didn't see coming. And it's this naivety that puzzles me. This naivety extends to copyright, an area where I think content owners, authors, publishers, musicians have real, genuine concerns. Apparently, when Google was going up and down the length and breadth of America, digitizing entire university libraries, it was genuinely surprised when people started getting angry. That means that Google is either incredibly naive or it's pretending to be. And I'm not really sure which one is worse. Thanks.
Okay.